welcome back to Rating the List, where we review, discuss, and reimagine popular movie lists objectively. We're your hosts. I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad, and on this episode, we'll be exploring number 29 from AFI's 100 Years, 100 Passions, the 100 Greatest Love Stories of All Time.
All right, number 29 is Officer and a Gentleman, released in 1982, directed by Taylor Hackford, starring Richard Gere and Deborah Winger.
The synopsis for this romantic drama is as follows. Zach Mayo, a Navy petty officer stationed in the Philippines, reports to Fort Rainier, Washington for aviation officer school. Mayo and his classmates meet Gunnery Sergeant Foley, their no-nonsense, stern drill instructor. He informs them anyone physically or mentally unfit will be dismissed. He also warns them about Puget Sound Debs, local girls looking to marry an aviation officer and will use pregnancy to entrap an officer. Soon after, Mayo and his classmate Sid Worley begin dating factory workers. They meet at a dance. Mayo dates Paula, played by Deborah Winger, and Worley dates Lynette. Loner Zach is caught peddling illegally obtained naval accessories to cash-strapped candidates so they can pass inspection. Foley tells Mayo he lacks integrity and motivation and isn't a team player. He punishes Mayo with a weekend of rigorous hazing designed to get him to resign. When Mayo fails to quit, Foley dismisses him from the program. Mayo breaks down and tells him he has nothing to go back to since his mother committed suicide when he was a boy and his father is nothing but a drunk womanizer. Believing Mayo has reached a crucial point of self-realization, Foley relents and allows him to continue in the officer program. Mayo faces additional punishment, but works to atone for his behavior. After a dinner party with Paula's family, Mayo learns her biological father was an officer candidate who abandoned Paula's mother when she became pregnant. As it nears time for Mayo to transfer to another base for the next phase of his training, he calls things off with Paula, which she reluctantly accepts. During the final obstacle course, Mayo gives up the chance to break the course record to assist a classmate showing his growth. At a dinner with Worley's parents, he learns that after he's commissioned, Worley is expected to marry his late brother's fiancée. Meanwhile, Lynette informs him she might be pregnant. After a severe anxiety attack during a high-altitude simulation, Worley quits the program. He goes to Lynette and proposes marriage, stating he never wanted a military career and was only assuming his dead brother's role to please his family. He intends to move back to Oklahoma and take back his old department store job. A stunned Lynette rejects him, saying she wants to marry a naval aviator and travel the world, and admits she isn't pregnant. A dejected Worley leaves. Soon after, Mayo and Paula arrive looking for Worley. Lynette recaps what happened, and Mayo accuses her of faking the pregnancy, which she denies. Mayo and Paula find Worley dead at a motel from suicide. Mayo blames himself and heads back to base to quit. He confronts Foley, who refuses the resignation, and challenges Mayo to settle their differences in martial arts combat. Mayo lands several blows on a surprised Foley before Foley eventually incapacitates him. Foley then says it's up to Mayo if he quits. Mayo completes his training and is commissioned as an officer. Following tradition, he and the other graduates receive their first salute from Foley, who Mayo thanks for not giving up on him. Mayo goes to the factory and carries Paula out in his arms to everyone's applause, including Lynette.
Okay. This is a really good movie.
It is.
We talk about love stories, and yes, Paula and Nick have this love story. Zach. Why did I call him Nick?
I don't know.
Oh. So Zach and Paula have this love story, but also it's about how Zach's whole life has been void of love.
Yeah.
He is,
he's essentially he's abandoned by his mother.
She commits suicide.
She commits suicide, and then he doesn't hear from his dad for 4 months because his dad's out, quote unquote. He is out on a Navy vessel for 4 months, which could have realistically happened. But you get the kind of impression that maybe that's not the case.
No, he his dad is basically like living his life, sleeping with whoever, you know, like just being this Navy guy who's, you know, got no ties to anything.
Yeah.
And he treats Zach as such.
And so Zach has learned his whole life to, you know, basically he's got to look out for himself. He's a loner. He's got all these attachment issues. So when he finally meets up with Paula, who, you know, she's probably looking for, you know, a husband.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she's going to these dances to meet an aviation officer, but she's also not trying to do anything untoward. And she legitimately falls in love with Zach.
Yes, they fall in love with each other. And I think he just gets scared because he's never had anything like that before.
Yeah, he lashes out.
Yeah, he lashes out. And then he, you know, gets this, he learns how to have camaraderie with his fellow classmates and, you know, gets really bonded with Sid. And, you know, he ends up killing himself, and it brings him back to when his mom
he blames
did
himself because apparently in his eyes, anyone he really truly cares about ends up killing themselves.
Yeah, so it's really sad.
He needs some therapy.
He does need therapy, and I think the drill sergeant helps him a bit with it, you know, pushes him to be what he, you know, better than what he is.
Because like when you look at like physically, like all the physical stuff, he is the best person in the class for that stuff. And you know, he knows to, like, you know, one of the reasons that he and Worley bond so much is Worley's really good with all the mathematics stuff that they need for the flight training stuff.
Yes.
So they kind of pair up and help each other out in that regard, and they really become close friends.
Yeah. It's really sad that he felt like he had no way to.
Well, he never lived his life.
Yeah.
And you know, he went into this all because, you know, this was the life that his brother was supposed to have. So he kind of took that over to the point where he's gonna, you know, he's like engaged to his brother's former fiance.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
That's some like
1800
yeah,
shit.
that's some like 1800 shit where, like, you know, like, you know, you're expected to, like, you know, marry the widow of your brother kind of thing. And it's just like it's like it's a whole thing. And then, you know, when, you know, he finally acts like himself, he does it in front of Lynette, and she's just like, dude, that's like the last thing I want. I don't want to move from this shitty Washington town to frickin' shitty Oklahoma and live the same shitty life working some shitty job. That is not the life that I wanted. It's like, I went after you because, you know, you were going to be an aviation officer, and that was going to allow me to travel the world and live a different life, and just summarily rejects him.
Yeah.
And, you know, the very first time that he's maybe himself in his entire adult life, he gets rejected and he can't take it.
Yeah. So you have this whole dynamic of, you know, these women who feel like their only way out is to marry an officer and make something better for themselves.
And maybe there's some truth to that because it's kind of this dead industry town. I mean, there are places like that, but
oh yeah. But then you have 2 female cadets,
right,
in it,
right? They do talk about that too.
They do, and this one of I can't remember their names.
Yeah.
But one of them is like having a hard time climbing over the wall, but she's like doing everything really well. That's just like her one thing, and she's
the one that Mayo goes back to help to get her over the wall. And that's why he doesn't ultimately break the course record, because he goes back and helps, but at the same time, you know, he's showing that, you know, he's a part of the team. So, you know, like, Foley at one point brings up the fact that you can't be a loner when you're a fighter jet. You're gonna be someone's wingman, or someone's gonna be your wingman, and you have to be up there. People aren't going to trust you.
Right.
So he kind of does that. So he helps this woman get over literally get over
the hurdle,
the big hurdle that she has in her training, which is rope climbing over this wall. It's the one thing that she just really struggles with.
Also, it's very interesting to me from watching all these movies that this is a pretty diverse cast.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got women, you have people of color, you have,
I mean, Louis Gossett Jr. won an Oscar for his role as
he's amazing. And so it's like that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Just because you have an all-star cast doesn't mean you have to approach racist issues or racism. You can have just normal people doing normal things.
Your stories should represent the population that they serve.
Yes. And
so I get there are going to be movies, like if you set a movie in 18th century Ireland,
right,
everyone's going to be white. I get that. But something like this that's set in the 1980s should reflect the fact that women were starting to be allowed to be in these officer training programs, and military is largely made up of lower middle class people, and a lot of lower middle class people are people of color.
Yeah.
And the country that all these like MAGA guys really hate, who's protecting it? People of color. For the most part.
Yeah, so that was cool to see. I really liked that, and I liked that they had women trying to be officers as well. That was kind of cool to see. And so there's this like weird thing where like here's these women in the military trying to be an officer, trying to make their lives better, and then you have women who are on the outside who are trying to get to those men to make their lives better. So it's just kind of like this contrast of...
And it's realistic, I think.
I think it is too. It's very realistic. I think, there's some people who have the drive to like get themselves somewhere.
Or the opportunity. All these officer... the people that are on these officer training programs, for the most part, have money. Most people that end up as a naval officer are college educated. It's not a squabby on the deck kind of person that generally becomes an officer in the Navy. Like, I worked with a guy who he went to the Naval Academy. It's college, So it's not like you can just get into it. So the officer program is a little bit different, but so the women that are in that officer program are generally going to be better educated than the women that are working in that factory.
Right.
They're going to be, they just have more opportunities. So you see the two sides of it.
Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, it's a good movie.
Yeah, we got our first like pretty steamy sex scene too.
Yeah, it was steamy.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah, this is the first. I think it's like it's about the first one on the list that's pretty racy. You get a little bit of it, I think, in The Bridges of Madison County, a little bit.
A little.
But this one, you're like, whoa, they're
doing it.
They're doing some stuff.
And it's one of the handful of movies on here that are like true love stories.
Yeah, everything about this is fully based as a love story.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not a really good movie that they threw onto the list that happens to have a love story in it.
Right.
The crux of this movie is the love story.
Right. And it's also about, people trying to make their way through life the best way they can. And, Paula's trying not to repeat the steps of her mom.
Right.
But in a way is, so it's really good. If you have not seen this movie, you should really watch it.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. And it doesn't feel like 1982.
No,
like it feels like it could be any time.
Yeah, and the film we were kind of talking about it. We're like, this still looks really good.
It looks really good. The film still looks really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I gave this one a 68. Jerry gave it an 87.
I really liked it.
Dang. The list score is 77.5.
All right. If you have seen this movie and you'd like to comment, please leave a comment for us on this video. If you want to talk to us and contact us directly, please do so at ratingthelist@gmail.com. But for now, we're rating the list. I'm Jerry.
I'm Brad.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.